listening to Game On DC, your home for local gaming and esports news in the DMV. Find the show on social media at Game On DC and by using the hashtag GoDC. Without further ado, here are your hosts, John and Joey.
What is up, DMV, and welcome to Game On DC, the show dedicated to you, the gamers and esports fanatics, right here in the East Coast capital of esports. My name is John Fiasco Barm. I'm joined once again by the man, the myth, the legend, the king of the courtside, Joey Courtside King McDermott. Joey, happy Monday. It's an action-packed week once again here in the DMV.
Yeah, I feel like we barely got all this together in time to go live with the show. Just hit that 8:05 mark perfectly on the dot. We are here live. We have an exciting week ahead, especially for DMV esports fans.
It's absolutely fantastic. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about here today, but first we got to do a little bit of homework. The live show of Game On DC is where all the fun and magic happens here on Twitch, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Monday nights. But have no fear if you can't tune in for the live show. There is a podcast version of the show available as well. Just search Game On DC either on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, or pretty much anywhere else you can find an RSS feed for podcasts. So we're pretty much available on all your favorite podcatchers, those not listed there as well. Just search, again, Game On DC. And also make sure to follow the show on social media as we keep you up to date with everything going on in gaming and esports here in the DMV. Joey, I mean, again, I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. I feel like we're absolutely spoiled because unlike a lot of cities here in the United States, here in North America, we are absolutely lucky to have so many professional esports teams right here in our backyard in Washington, D.C. We touched on it last week. WizDG, back-to-back NBA 2K League champs, the Justice. They're in the playoffs after just absolutely just playing their brains out, it feels like, during the play-in stage, taking down Paris and Houston, if my memory serves correctly.
Correct.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. And of course, we're going to be talking a lot today about the Justice. But first, just because we're going to get it out of the way here a little bit, I promise we won't spend too much time on it. Joey, WizDG, just real quick, the season is over, but the 2K League finally listened to fans. They finally listened to the players. They have an all-star game. And the main reason we're covering this is because, Joey, the starting lineup is 3/5 WizDG, and if you include the head coach, it is 4/6, if you will. JBM, Just Awkward, the big dog, Dave Fry himself, and head coach Pat Crossan, all earning all-star honors for the Eastern Conference. They will be in the starting lineup with some guy from Brooklyn named Chalk. You know, I hear he's pretty good, a.k.a. the Fadeaway King. So, you know, I mean, look, the East is absolutely stacked. They'll be going up against the West. That is this Saturday, the 25th at 7 p.m. Joey, I think that's going to be absolutely fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're a WizDG fan, John, this is like a good chunk of the team going over there as well. JBM, Dave Fry, Just Awkward, and as you said, Coach Pat Crossan. Amazing members of the team. Honestly, I feel like everyone could have potentially made a spot here, but with it being an all-star game, you're going to pull in some stars from other teams as well. But in the end, WizDG with some very nice representation. Yeah,
I will say this. It does feel like a popularity contest a little bit here too. And with that week 3 switch, sending Nudini back down to the 4 and putting B-Rich in at the 2 spot. You know, look, I mean, Nudini, the most winning player in the league. B-Rich, you know, was a 6-man last year, inserted in the lineup this past year and played out of his mind. Definitely deserves accolades, but, you know, it's a popularity contest. It was what it comes down to. But I agree. I feel like all 5 players from WizDG could have easily made it there into the All-Star game as well.
And again, I mean, to get their accolades, John, they were the ones hoisting the trophy at the end of the season. So, I mean, you give and you take. In the end, they ended up being big champions, though.
I'll take the trophy any day of the week. Joey, rumor has it there's another esports team here in the area called the Washington Justice. I believe they're of the Overwatch League. Joey, they are in Hawaii. I watched their Instagram story. I watched their Twitter feed a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous. They flew United business class down to Hawaii. And Joey, I don't know if you're familiar with that because I'm definitely not. I've watched YouTube videos. Though that's the Polaris on the United, aka the seats that are like your own little cubicle that fold down into a bed. Yes, please. And I want those the next time we travel somewhere. I want business class with the foldable seats because I want to be well rested when we get to our destination, Joey.
We'll see what we can do, John. But for now, hopefully the Justice are well rested because that map is just on the horizon, John. They're taking on the Dallas Fuel here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. The 2 seed up against the 8 seed. We're coming in as at 8. But as you said, our play-ins look pretty darn good.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I mean, when you take down a Paris team and a Houston team, two teams that, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the regular season, ups and downs, there were a lot of struggles. If you tuned in on the official co-streams with us as we were doing those throughout the season, we talked about it a lot there. We've mentioned it here on the show as well. Those hybrid and escort maps, just absolutely a thorn in my side and a thorn in the side of the Washington Justice. But it seems like for the play-ins, they figured it out. They took down a good Paris team. They took down a really good Houston team that was really starting to come alive. It did take 5 maps. And again, it came down to our favorite map on Busan, going the distance there as well, to earn their spot in the postseason. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the brackets here if I can actually get the page to load. Hey, Overwatch League, I would appreciate it if your website worked here a little bit. But yes, very exciting times here. Joey, the game is tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, which I believe is 1 p.m. Hawaii time, which is one heck of a time difference.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that conversion because I honestly had no idea what the actual time was being played over there. But yeah, 7 p.m. for those in DC, for those in the DMV area. There is a watch party going on at Washington Justice headquarters as well. I believe that is ticketed, so you will have to get your tickets ahead of time if there are any left available. But in the end, everyone will be celebrating, whether you're at the watch party, whether you're watching online with the other fans, whether you're jumping into a Discord call. I know they do watch parties on there as well. Everyone's going to be cheering for the Justice here in the DMV.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, there's going to be a lot that takes place between now and our next live show here on Game On DC. In fact, we're pretty much going to get all the way into who's going to be in the grand finals for next week. That's going to be something that you're going to have to follow social media for. You're going to have to follow Game On DC. We'll keep you all up to date there. Who knows? We might have a live show here and there. I know our schedule, Joey, this week is an absolute nightmare with all the fun stuff that we have planned, not just for the OTN community, but here in the DMV as well. There's a lot of really great gaming and esports stuff happening, so you definitely want to pay attention to that. But we'll have to throw some content up there as well. But Joey, the one matchup we do know is that matchup against the Dallas Fuel. If I'm not mistaken, this is a team that we struggled. Did we beat them earlier in the season?
We did. So we played them back in April, and we ended up taking that one, I believe, 3-1 in our first. It might have been week 2, actually, but I believe it was the Justice's first matchup. And then we ended up losing the tiebreaker. I want to say it was early July, if I remember correctly, and that went 3-2 in favor of Dallas.
Yeah, trying to pull up that lovely schedule here, because the only way you can sort by team is you have to find your way to navigate to the actual home team page here. So we'll pull that up here and we'll scroll down until we find, let's see here.
It was early July.
Let's see here. So,
there it is. You just passed it.
I passed it. That's Boston. That's Boston. There we go. So, week 2, our very first match of the regular season was 3-1. If I remember correctly, that was a very close 3-1. Dallas definitely played out of their mind. I mean, this was their first lineup missing essentially a long-range DPS player. They did have that roster move right before the season started, and it definitely showed. They definitely struggled. The Justice came out. They looked really good, but it was a hard-fought 3-1 win over this Dallas Fuel team. But from there, going on to the regular season, Joey, it was a tale of two different teams. The Justice would go on to struggle a bit, especially as hero bans were introduced, hero pools, as they call it. And it really hurt the current meta, which really favored the Washington Justice. And it took them a while to kind of adapt. And that's where we saw the Justice really start to struggle with those hybrid and escort maps. Meanwhile, for the Dallas Fuel, they kind of flipped everything around. They started to catch fire, no pun intended. But they were just burning through the regular season. That one was intended. They just absolutely took off. Meanwhile, the Justice, that was a top 3 team, kind of settled towards the middle of the pack as the season went on, as those struggles continued.
Yeah, for sure. Dallas really caught fire, I would say, late May, going into, I believe it was the May Melee event is when they really started getting everything together with that squad. Now, back in April when the Justice took their win, I feel like Dallas, as you mentioned, were kind of settling into this new roster, trying to figure out what their new look is going to look like after a couple changes. And the Justice took advantage of that early on. They took a 2-0, I believe it was on Ilios here. And then from there, we did end up dropping the escort map on Gibraltar, back and forth from there, and the Justice take the win 3-1. So again, Dallas didn't quite have their footing at the time, but then they did have their footing the next time we played them in July. And that was such a tight match, John. This one went to a game 5, or map 5 rather, back and forth between the two teams. In the end, Dallas did end up winning, but it was a very hard-fought victory.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I mean, it was all 5 maps. You can see it here on your screen right now as we give you a quick little recap. Lijiang Tower, of course, went in favor of the Justice. It feels like map 1 almost always goes in favor of the Justice. Those control maps are just something that the Justice play incredibly well on. It's almost like their bread and butter. And again, I'll bring it up in our interview that we had with Supreme. It's kind of funny that he talks about in scrims, controls are the maps they struggle on the most, and hybrid and escorts are the maps that they actually do well on during the regular season, which, I mean, honestly kind of blew my mind a little bit. But at the same time, you know, you don't have that pressure on you. Maybe if you are performing well on a map, maybe in those scrims, it gives you a chance to try something different, try a different tactic that maybe you might be able to pull out of your back pocket during the regular season against a team you haven't scrimmed against to kind of surprise them. You know, that's something we saw this Justice team do last year in the postseason. In the playoffs, they played an off-meta comp that really took a lot of teams by storm, and they got all the way to the Final Four. I mean, it was a very, very good performance by the Justice. Will we see something like that here again? Probably not. I don't expect any kind of gimmick picks or any kind of like wonky off-meta picks for the Justice. I feel like they're going to play to their strengths. And again, when you have somebody like Decay on your team, obviously one of the best, if not a top 3, or you can make an argument number 1, DPS player in the entire league, you feel like you have to play around what his current strength is. And right now, his Tracer's on a whole different level. We saw it throughout the regular season. Tracer with that pulse bomb is an absolute game changer. You put Assassin on Sombra with that EMP, a big, big, massive game changer there as well, especially when you have, I mean, I'm not going to say it just because we're Justice fans, but arguably one of the best tank lines and potentially rookie of the year in Mag, just being able to follow up. I mean, this team is made for the postseason. And, you know, I don't think, you know, the regular season is going to dictate how they react or how they feel going into this match against Dallas. I think they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things. Like, how do these adjustments go? What adjustments have been made since we've seen their last regular match as well? Now, we did get a little bit more of a taste because we did see play-ins as Justice fans. With that being said, things can still happen. The game is constantly updating, and overall strategies are updating as well. We know the coaching staff behind the Justice, though. They bring a lot of great strategies to the table. We've seen them adapt throughout the season. Hero bans did hurt us a little bit here and there, but now that we don't really have to worry about that as much, I do feel much more comfortable going in, especially with these escort maps kind of eluding us throughout the season. It feels like we're finally getting a grasp on them now.
Yeah, I can feel a sneeze coming on. I'm trying to time it so I can hit my mute button so no one has to hear my awful.
Oh no,
awful
bring it on,
sneeze.
bring it on. It'll be like a big cheer.
Nobody
And then we
wants
can
to
all
hear
do a
that.
little hashtag justice is served in chat as well.
Well, hashtag justice is served and allergies are served is what it feels like. Joey, I love fall. I love the fact that it's dark by 7 p.m. I love the temperature change, but what I don't like is my allergies, because that's when it kicks up as in the fall, and I've been sneezing my brains out for the past like 4 or 5 days. I'm just not happy with it. But anywho, the fall means playoffs for Overwatch, so I'm all about it. Joey, I don't know if we want to like curse the team or anything here by making predictions, but let's say theoretically, you know, knock on wood, you know, whatever you got to do here, the Justice take down the Fuel. Let's say the team's momentum is continuing to build off those play-in wins. They're going up against a tough Dallas team that, you know, they've gone back and forth with. It was, you know, I think it's going to go, you know, I don't know if I want to say a prediction here, but let's just say the Justice go past the Dallas Fuel. We mentioned it on our other podcast, Level Up podcast, that the Justice are a scary 8 seed. They're not really playing like an 8 seed. They're a team on paper that is arguably a top 3 team talent-wise. They just got to put that into play. And there's a very good possibility that they can beat Dallas. If they do that, they'll take on the winner of Atlanta Reign and the Hunters. My question to you, Joey, as we take a look at predictions not named the Washington Justice versus the Dallas Fuel, what would be the best case scenario for the Justice in the second round?
Neither.
Yeah,
I
seriously.
don't know. I mean, both are very talented teams. Like the Atlanta Reign looked very hot. I believe we lost to the Reign, if I remember correctly. Do you still have the Justice schedule up?
I
Oh, I do right here.
can pull it up.
So Friday, July 2nd, we lost to the Reign 3-0. I remember that match pretty vividly.
Oh.
It was not a pretty one to watch, but then again, we did lose to Paris as well, and then we did pretty well against them and Houston. Both, I believe, I think Paris might have been a lot closer game, but Houston was definitely a 3-0, and we came out and looked much better against them in the last match in the play-ins. So with that being said, I mean, adjustments have been made. We were questioning the pick to go with Paris instead of Boston initially. They proved us wrong. They came out, looked really strong against Paris, so it could be a similar situation here. In the end, I feel like Atlanta would be the team I personally would want to choose, as Chengdu and really the Eastern teams in general look so strong to me.
Now, Joe, I'm just going to point this out here real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this onto the screen for all of our fantastic viewers here on Twitch. Again, podcast listeners, this is why you want to watch live, but it's cool. I'll try to break it down here for you as well. Paris in week 6, they 3-0'd us. That was a very quick game, too, if I remember. It was a very quick and swift 3-0. It was a very bad week in week 6. We got 3-0'd by them. We got 3-0'd by Boston. It was not a good week. Let's put it behind us real quick.
Well, and that came down to hero bans as well, just to hit on it briefly. Like with Paris, Naga in particular played a phenomenal Echo in that series. The tanks also did a really good job in that one. So I want to say it was Gator, maybe, that was the big tank that ended up making a huge impact. But yeah, in the end, they looked phenomenal. They came out, they dominated, or Gator rather was in the Atlanta series. But either way, they ended up looking very strong. We didn't have much of an answer at all, for sure.
All right, so in the first matchup, Paris takes us down 3-0. In the second matchup, goes 5. We win 3-2. Joey, then the very next time we play Paris is in that play-ins, and we smoke them 3-0. So I feel like when you split a team in the regular season, especially when one was an 0-3, then one was a 3-2, I feel like you're doing pretty well. You're pretty prepared. That's why they picked Boston, or it was just the way the egg game went, and that's how they ended up picking Paris as well. But then let's take a look at Houston, right? So Houston in the regular season, we played them once. It was in week 16. It was also a 3-0. Right. Then in the play-ins, it was a 3-2 in favor of the Justice. Justice is serving revenge, nice, hot and warm, if we will, against Houston as well. So with Dallas, right there, same thing as we did with Paris. It was a 3-1 win for the Justice, and then where's the other one? It was a 3-2 loss. So this one was a little bit closer in that matchup. But again, like if we're taking a look at history and how this team responds after splitting the regular season series 1 apiece, it feels like just Washington is in a good set to actually take down Dallas in convincing fashion if that momentum continues.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite going to buy into the convincing fashion route here. I think I'm going to take best of 5, but I do think the Justice have a very good shot at coming out on top. As we've seen, as we just demonstrated with the schedule, we found ways to come back to these matchups with new strategies. Chat seems to agree. They voted 3-2 Justice. In the end, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, what adjustments are we going to make? We've seen the adjustments come out in the Paris series. We saw them again in the Houston series. Now the ability to bring that once again to another series here with Dallas, a team that we've really gone back and forth with all season long. And even just our full lifetime, I feel like we've had good series against Dallas. I think this is another one just similar to a lot of those Washington-Dallas rivalries in sports. I think he goes 5, but I think the Justice have a very good shot at coming out on top.
Yeah, there's a very good chance too. I'm right there with you. I think it does go 5 as well. I would be surprised if it doesn't go 5. The Justice, a very talented team. The Dallas Fuel, a very talented team. Both teams have overcome a lot of adversity through the regular season. The Justice trying to get their chemistry together, trying to overcome that massive hurdle that is hybrid and escort maps. You have Dallas losing a clutch long-range DPS player, a long-range hit scan player in the beginning of the season. They kind of had to reinvent themselves. They kind of pulled a Justice here in the regular season, kind of like what we saw the Justice do last postseason. They went off meta. They weren't afraid to go against the grain and make these other teams think. And try to come up with counters to whatever they threw out there. That's part of the beauty of Overwatch, is that you're not locked into that hero. You can go back and change. If you're the one forcing the other team to change, if you have the other team on their heels and they can't respond fast enough to what you're doing, I mean, it's GG. It's GG, and we saw that go in favor of the Justice. We saw it go against the Justice. There were a lot of times where the Justice really struggled to kind of figure out what the comp was going to be, kind of respond to what the other team was doing, and hurt them, especially on escort maps. Like, let's bring up Junkertown. Let's go ahead and give everyone nightmares on Junkertown here real quick. It was just, I mean, anytime Junkertown was picked, it was like one of those, oh no moments. Here we go again. Are we going to get out of the village? Are we going to get to the first checkpoint? Are we going to, how is this team going to be able to respond? And part of the reason is the other teams would come out and put the Justice on their back heels, and they would have to constantly respond to what was being thrown at them. They weren't the ones dictating the pace of the game. I expect that narrative to change here against Dallas. I expect the Justice to be running the narrative. They're going to be the ones putting Dallas Fuel on their back heels, and they're going to have to try to respond to the amazing gameplay of Assassin, of Decay, of Bebe, of Mag, of all the players, whoever gets subbed in, whoever gets picked in the starting six. The Justice, I feel like, are going to be the ones dictating this pace in this matchup, and it's going to be up to the Fuel to respond. Otherwise, again, 5 games, I think, can go in favor of the Justice.
Yeah, I really like the Justice in this matchup in particular. I really think this goes 5 games as well. I would prefer not to play on Junkertown if at all possible, though. I feel like that is just kind of an automatic loss based on what we've seen all season long. But as far as a lot of these other maps, we've seen those improvements. Gibraltar was one of the maps we lost to Dallas, but they were one of the teams we played the best on that map against as well. Hanamura, we played phenomenally well. I think this is where Bebe had like that crazy 6-minute hold based pretty much on Ana ults on B. So there's a number of really good back and forth between these two teams on a lot of these maps. We've played so many different maps, John. We've played Ilios, we've played Gibraltar, Hanamura, Eichenwald, all got pulled out in the first series against Dallas. On the second series, you had Li Jiang, you had Volskaya, Kings Row, and Route 66. And then you went to Busan. So you ended, or Nepal rather. So you had a ton of different maps. Like, we are talking a big variety of maps between these two teams. Now that we're going back into that next rotation, a third really matchup between the teams, some of these maps are going to repeat themselves. So I'm curious if we see adjustments from those initial VODs that they're going to review versus what we see come out tomorrow as well.
Joey, just because I'm a big fan of IBM Watson and I love everything robots tell me, I want to take a look at the power rankings here real quick as we're coming towards the end of the show here, previewing this matchup that is at least guaranteed. We don't know the other matches coming up the rest of this week as of yet. But just really quick here, overall power rankings, these take into account support, damage, and tank. And right there, number 1, number 2, you have Hanbin and Fearless. It's the tank line for the Fuel. Statistically speaking, by IBM Watson, a computer who thinks better than humans do, states that they are the best 2 players in the entire league, according to its algorithm. And, you know, they are 2 very talented tank players. They have improved and grown throughout the entire season. And I definitely think it's going to be a matchup of 2 of the better tank lines in the entire league with this Justice and Fuel matchup.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If we want to dive into player matchups, the tank line is the one to watch for sure. When we looked at the initial matchup, our tanks did very well. Mag came out, really showed why he was up there as kind of a rookie of the year early vote in April when we played them. Then when we went to the July matchup, Fearless came out and showed why he's a veteran as well. Absolutely. I'm not going to say fully carrying Dallas, but he was definitely a vital part in their wins in that matchup. I think he's another big one to watch. Now, like you said, Hanbin's also up here. You see Fielder in the top 10 as well. So a number of talented Dallas players making this top 10 of the list. But for me, Fearless is such a key veteran piece of that lineup. So many different things revolve around him and his play style. Really just a commanding presence, it feels like. I don't know how he is in comms, but at least when we see him in the match, it feels like all of the roster adjusts to what Fearless is doing. And I feel like he could be a huge game changer for the Justice. One of the keys is going to be finding ways to shut him down.
Absolutely. So you have 4 players for the Field in the top 14 of the overall power rankings, including Fielder and Sparkle, like mentioned before. You have to get down to 18 and 19 before you find a Justice player in the overall power rankings. Again, it's just a computer putting an algorithm together, but it is something to kind of take a look at because it does take into account damage dealt, kills, deaths, assists, time alive, time spent dead, all the other fun stuff. It does take a lot into account. So there is some science behind all of these numbers.
Well, okay, just to play off the science though, John, just to cut you off for just a moment.
You're good.
The other thing to keep in mind here, and this is where this whole thing kind of gets jippy with me, is when you look at it, this also takes into mind all of the hero bans.
Yeah.
So for Decay, for example, Tracer was banned out for a full month. That's arguably his best hero. So that is going to drop his damage potentially based on he's now not playing on his best hero and performing the best that he could potentially because of that. So I feel like that's something that needs to be mentioned here with an asterisk as well.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. And again, these are just, like Joey said, like it's just numbers that are taken into account how they played throughout the regular season. Those hero bans definitely play a big impact. Like if you are Decay, like Joey mentioned, and you have 4 games where you can't play Tracer, or you have 4 games where you can't play Sombra if you're Assassin, or Echo being banned out. Echo became big during those hero bans. Assassin popped off on Echo as well. Those will definitely skew these numbers quite a bit, especially since in the playoffs, reminder, no hero bans. Do it for the whole year, or let the players pick the bans. I'm fine with that too. But nonetheless, Joey, just kind of looking it through here, we talked about the support line for the Justice as well throughout the season. And when you have Bebe and Closer, obviously they're top 20 players, but I feel like these rankings don't do them justice because these two alone have quite literally held together team fights. One that comes to mind, of course, is the 6-minute hold on point B of Hanamura. I'm blanking on who that was against, but regardless, whoever it was against, a 6-minute defensive hold on point B, Bebe played out of his mind. I believe he was on Ana for most of that, and he did such an incredible job at holding on to his ultimate and timing it just right. It was such a great play that it felt like the support line alone was the one that really kept everyone alive and kept that fight going for the Justice for that amazing 6-minute hold. Like, I feel like everything has to click in the right way for a team to hold for 6 minutes. Joey, and then that's something that I can't do in quick play. It's something I can't do in my ranked games, but it's apparently something that you can do in the Overwatch League. Is a 6-minute hold. It takes communication, it takes trust, and it takes being able to be skilled at the champion or hero you're playing and knowing when to use your ultimate. And I feel like, again, these are just numbers created by a computer. You cannot underestimate this support line for the Justice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, communication can trump a lot of this in the end. And that's what it comes down to. Like we were talking about Bebe with that hold. That comes down to communication. You can't do that. Even being amazingly skilled, finding that timing, there still has to be some layer of communication to fully have an impact with that support ult. And we saw that over and over with the Justice. Their ability to really hold ults is very next level in this league. And there's a lot of other teams, Dallas being one of them, who does it pretty effectively. But a number of other teams, you can see the panic come out. And when they know they need to get back on that point, you just see ults getting popped all over the place. Now, it's professional play, so they're very effective ults in the end. But a lot of them end up throwing off the pacing of the team as well with this Justice team. And we saw it get a little shaky during some hero ban phases. But overall, they've done a very good job of feathering their ulti usage so that they're not overusing ults in fights and allows them to keep some of those ults up for the next engagements as well.
Absolutely. So Joey, I feel like there's so much that we could talk about breaking down this matchup between the Justice and the Fuel. But regardless of whatever we say, the game is still going to be played tomorrow. And the best players in Overwatch League who have made their way to the playoffs are going to go head to head. It's going to be a number 2 seed versus a number 8 seed. It's the Fuel versus the Justice. It's going to be absolutely exciting. I believe you mentioned it earlier at the top of the segment. There's going to be a watch party in downtown DC. It's going to be absolutely fire. Joey, you and I are going to have the honor of being there. We're going to be doing some social media coverage. Originally planned to do a live show. Things may not work out in that way, so we're looking at just doing some social media coverage. We'll be, interacting with fans. We'll be having people put themselves on record. What do you think the results are going to be in this matchup? Who wins? What's the series result? We'll post all of that on social media as well. So definitely make sure, if you're not doing so already, follow Game on DC. We're going to be bringing you live content from that watch party tomorrow. That'll be taking place 7 p.m. I believe doors open around 6. If I'm not,
or as John said, 1 p.m. Hawaii time.
Or 1
right?
p.m. Hawaii time. because time zones are awesome. Joey, the only reason I knew that is because of the meme the Justice posted on their Twitter page, where it's like they're waking up and they're trying to put their glasses on. They think it's 10:30 and they put their glasses on. And it says it's like 4:30, and you're just like, look. I'll tell you what. If any of you guys watching or listening have never had the experience of jumping 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 time zones and then trying to fix your biological clock, it is a nightmare. When I moved to South Korea several times, Joey, and every time I came back to the US and every time I went back to South Korea, it was a full 2-3 day process to reset your body's clock. It was an absolute nightmare. I know what they're going through. It is tough, but they've had plenty of time. Joey, they probably slept on the way over there, so they probably don't have to worry about readjusting those clocks. They're on the beach. They're enjoying the weather. They're enjoying the clear blue water of Hawaii, and I'm not jealous one bit, Joey, not one.
Absolutely. Now we're off topic, but I'll give you guys just a quick surefire way of fixing that. So if you stay up and go to bed at your regular time, it's fixed. It's done. Works like a charm every single time. So it might mean you're up for a good 24 plus hours, but as long as you do it once, you're good to go for the rest.
That is true. That's a very good point. But Joey, we're super excited to see the Justice play tomorrow again, 7 p.m. We look forward to seeing everybody at the live event in downtown DC as the world tries to get back to normal. Please do make sure if you are heading to the event in downtown DC, you follow all the rules and regulations that are set place there. Everything indoors does require a mask. Please, 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 if you are showing up there, please bring a mask. You do not want to be turned away for not having a mask on, regardless of your vaccination status. That's just the rules right now. It sucks, but you know what? We're all here to play our part and hopefully cheer on the Justice to victory.
And same with your Justice gear as well, guys. You
Yes.
got to be wearing, if you don't have a jersey, I need at least some red, white, or blue of some sort coming in through that door.
Oh, you know what? Joey, so for us, real quick before we wrap it up, it's completely irrelevant. You and I both have those amazing city jerseys that they had 2 seasons ago in 2019.
Oh, the third kit.
Yeah, the third kits that were absolutely money. Granted, both of the players that we got on those jerseys no longer with the team. Are we rocking those jerseys? Or are we?
I mean, both of ours retired. Keep in mind, so we kind of
they
ended in
did
good
retire.
status, right? They didn't leave at least to another team.
I had Corey, and he's now
And
playing Valorant. So yeah. there is that. He's technically still active. So there is that. Or we could be rocking, the nice little Fnatic, shield jerseys as well that I know we both got. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We also have some t-shirts and whatnot we will do as well. But Joey, do you have anything else before we wrap it up tonight?
I think that does it, John. I'm excited. Again, guys, I really think this match could go the distance. I think this could be a best of 5 that we see going the full way. And in the end, I really do think the Justice have a shot at upsetting their potential rivals here in Dallas, but also that number 2 seed.
It is going to be absolutely fantastic. And again, we look forward to seeing everyone at the watch party in downtown DC tomorrow. But for now, that will do it for this week's episode of Game On DC. If you enjoy Game On DC, we would love to hear from you. Leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever it is. Leave us a review and rating so we can see that awesome feedback. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on social media to keep up with all the gaming esports news here in the DMV. Joey, where can the DMV listeners go to follow us?
DMV listeners, GoDC fans, head over to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and find us at Game On DC. Additionally, you can follow us on Twitter Twitch and YouTube at OTN Media. This show is Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/OTN Media. And last but not least, if you are on social media, use the hashtag GoDC, guys. We like the Justice is fighting, Justice is served. Throw in a hashtag GoDC as well.
All right, make sure you tune in next Monday, October 4th, and we will recap the entire playoffs and how well the Justice have done. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be talking about some grand final action here, but make sure you tune in next week. So do your ears and eyes a favor, hit that sub button here on Twitch to know when the next episode of Game On DC is ready for your viewing and listening pleasures. We'll catch you all on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Joey, as always,
Game on, DC.